first part of the tape, if you purchase the car kit from me, the first part will be on installation of the CooperCar conversion kit. If you purchase the entire vehicle from Innovative Products, Exceptional Choice, or from Toys for Special Children, the first part of the tape that you'll see is on operation. And then if you see the installation first, then obviously you'll see the operation next. After the operation of the vehicle is explained, then we'll explain how to use the remote if you get the wireless remote option. This is a way of controlling the car wirelessly so that you can override or augment your child's actions without having wires attached. That option is $100, and that remote operation will be explained after the normal operation phase. The next part that you'll be seeing is called a chip insertion. The way that the car is controlled electronically is a computer inside the conversion kit electronics. And this little computer is what we call a chip or a microprocessor. And we oftentimes update the software that drives the car. And it's all contained in a little tiny chip, the microprocessor. And every once in a while, we will be sending you questionnaires. And if you return the questionnaire, we will give you back an updated chip with new software on it that will hopefully have some improvements. So you need instructions on how to insert that chip, and you'll see those on the videotape. It's not hard, it's actually quite easy. The last part of the video that you'll see today is on how to quiet the Boss vehicle. There are 3 ways that you can do this, and I'll be explaining each of those and demonstrating some of those on how to get the noise of the vehicle down to less than 50% of what it is when it comes from the factory. So sit back and get all your materials together, and as I say, the first part here, if you purchase the car kit from us, the first part you'll see is installation, then operation, and then remote control operation, and then chip insertion, and finally sound quieting. And if you've purchased the vehicle from either Innovative Products, Toys for Special Children, Exceptional Choice catalog, then you'll see the operation first, followed by the remote operation, the chip insertion, and the sound quieting, and finally with the installation in case you should ever need that. So we'll see you in a bit. Hi, I'm R.J. Cooper, and I'm the inventor of this little CooperCar. And we're going to put it together, you and I, right now. Before I do, though, I'd like to well warn you that any risk that you incur is your own. This is a kit. You put it together yourself, you take responsibility. In plain language, don't sue us. There are many kids who will suffer if you do that. So please be careful with it. It's a toy, but be very careful. I don't think it's dangerous at all, but I'd like you to be careful. Reread instructions twice and make sure that you have complete control of the car at all times. I'll repeat that many times throughout this little demonstration. So remember, the risk is yours. We relieved of all liability. Okay, let's get started. You should have this vehicle assembled as you see it right here. Everything is put together on it, and you might have even tried playing with it. This little device right here that says high on one side and low on the other is how you have been controlling the speed. And I'm going to put this aside because this is very important and we'll use it shortly. So I'll put it right down here. So here we go. I have a set of instructions for the CooperCar conversion kit installation, which I will put here. I also have a box of materials. This is the box that you should have, or something like it. The materials in the box consist of, reading from my sheet, 1 CooperCar front panel assembly. 1 CooperCar front panel assembly. I'll put that over here. One external switch. One external switch. I'll put that right here. Two panel mount screws in baggie. Well, there's only one baggie in here, and here it is. And somewhere in here are two screws. And I'm going to take the instructions words for it, because there are other things in here also. So I'll put this right here. Two bungees. Two bungees. I'll put those back there. One CooperCar joystick with 4 knobs and an extender. Well, this sure looks like a joystick to me. And here's a knob right on the joystick already. And then if I turn it over, I have 3 other knobs, making a total of 4. And I see my panel mount screws in there also now. And the instructions say that I should have a strip of 4 labels: left, right, batteries, and power. And there is the strip. So I'll put this whole plastic bag right there. Now you only need 1 tool and 1 pair of scissors. The tool you'll need is a Phillips head screwdriver. Any Phillips head will work. And any pair of scissors will work. I'll put my Phillips head screwdriver right there. I happen to have a pair of scissors that I carry around with me. And there are my scissors. I'll put them right here. And I am ready to do this with you now. You should follow right along with me on the tape. Whenever I say left, it's as if I'm sitting in the car looking forward. That's my left. So car left, car right, as if I'm sitting in the car. By the way, the instructions are printed on recyclable paper, and I hope that you do recycle your paper and other things too. I have one other item in my box here. It's one of those yellow wheel covers that normally fits on the car's wheels. And I'm going to put that, I'll put it right there. So I have everything now that I need to install this car. I'd like you to pause for a moment, look over those materials, make sure that you can identify everything as per the list on the instructions, and we'll be right back. Hi, I hope you took the time to look at all different components. Well, let's go to it, shall we? Reading from my instructions, I have turned the car so that you can better see what I'm doing here. Now we have a little wind, and I hope it's not too loud for you, but it is a beautiful day here in California, and I hope you can bear with that wind. My first instruction is to remove the Boss joystick by removing its 4 screws with a Phillips head screwdriver, and remove all wires from the bottom of the joystick. I take my Phillips head screwdriver, and on my joystick there are normally 4 screws. I have removed 3 of them, but I'll remove the 4th one for you now. I take that screw. Where would be a good place for that screw? Probably in my baggie, just in case I ever want it again. I know where it is. joystick, I'm going to take all the wires off of the joystick. They pull right out fairly easily. If you need to pull them hard, if they're stuck on there, don't pull from out here. Do not pull from out here. Grab firmly as close as you can to the joystick, wiggle, and pull. Do not pull any wires ever from far away to the connection. This joystick now is pretty useless. So I'll put this joystick there. Remove batteries from boss along with wires possible. Well, this whole vehicle is the boss, so I'm going to remove the batteries from the boss along with all wires possible. Here's some wires. Here's a battery. Here's a battery. I'll put the batteries right there. There should remain 2 sets of 2 wires on the boss going to each motor. 2 sets of 2 wires. A left set and a right set. To the set of wires going to the left motor, if you're sitting in the car, attach the left motor label. Look under the car to locate the motors. So we need a left motor label. In my baggie is my strip of labels. I take my scissors and I cut the left motor label. I take my strip, I'll put it down here for a moment, right where I know where it is. Now I need to peel back my label. And this isn't always easy, but in this case it is. Left motor, left motor wires. And if you take the time to look under the car, you will find one motor is where my hand is now, and that's the left motor. And there'll be another motor where my hand is now underneath the car, that's the right motor. These wires go directly to those motors. Very simple. To the left motor, I take my left motor wire and labels, and I attach the label. Now, to hold these labels more firmly in place, you might want to scotch tape around this way. That will hold them firmly, because there will be times you'll take them off and on when we update the software on the front panel. Do the same for the right motor. There we have it. Now each of our motors is labeled. Left motor, right motor. Each set of wires is labeled. Once again, you might want to take some scotch tape and wrap around this way to keep these labels in place. Now, we're ready to replace the batteries in the car. Place one battery horizontally along the floor in the joystick compartment with the wires coming forward. One battery. I need to go in through the front won't fit in through here. Don't force it. When pushing it back into that compartment, you might have to juggle these wires around so that the battery goes all the way back into the compartment. And then you should be left with that set of battery wires right here. Place the other battery horizontally, this way, in the forward compartment with the wires rearward. And once again, I'll pull the wires up through here. Label all battery wires with the batteries labeled. And sure enough, we have a batteries label. Here are our batteries labels in place. And once again with the Scotch tape, put the Scotch tape on any way you want so that these labels stay in place. I think you're doing very well, at least I hope so. I feel like Richard Simmons on a video. So we're going to take a short break here for me to stretch my legs. This crouching position gets tough. And we'll be back in a moment. Hi, I hope you enjoyed our view of the Pilgrim, which was an exact replica of a boat that sailed here about 150 years ago. From the point that we're standing, the missionaries used to throw hides off of the cliffs right here that we're on, down to that Pilgrim. And it's very pretty there. So now, we're zooming in on this area because I wanted to make sure you have the batteries placed correctly. We have one battery in the forward compartment with the wires going rearward and up. And we have the other battery horizontally in the joystick compartment with the wires coming forward. Okay? Okay, let's continue on. To the battery wiring cluster. The battery wiring cluster. That's this little jobby right here. It's a cluster of wires. To the battery wiring cluster, the low, high speed indicator. Well, we have that somewhere. Let's see if we can locate that. There it is. Here's our high and low speed indicator. Here's our battery cluster. If you notice, there's an arrow that says speed control on the cluster. This should be set to high, which it now is. Attach this cluster to the batteries. Well, I have two sets of ends here, but only one set will fit on the batteries. This set will not. This set will. And it doesn't matter which one goes to which battery. Done. Label both remaining loose ends of the battery cluster with one power label. Here's our power label. I'll peel it back. And I'll attach it where I'm told. As before, a piece of Scotch tape to hold it in place might ensure that it will stay there. Power. Take the CooperCar front panel and place it in the forward compartment as logic dictates. That would mean with the writing like this, not like that, like this. Reach through the joystick compartment and pull the panel's wires rearward and up through the compartment. Here they are. And it doesn't matter if this slides around. Here's all the wires from the panel. And they're all labeled for you. In fact, if you look at how Brian, the person who has put this together for you, has put the Scotch tape on, then you'll learn something about putting your own Scotch tape on. Since the labels are just paper and the wires are quite strong, the wires have a tendency to rip through the paper sometimes. So some carefully placed Scotch tape is advised. Attach all motor wires according to the labels, noticing that each pair has a small and a large connector. Well, let's just look at any pair here. I'm looking at the right motor pair, and if we look at this pair, we do notice that they are two different sizes. One is small, one is large. And if we come back here to our right motor wires going to the motor, we have the same situation. One is small, one is large. And I'm going to do as I'm told. My right motor wires to the motor, I'm going to connect to my right motor wires from my front panel. And I've done it. Now my right motor is connected. Now sometimes, and we don't know why, these are very loose. If they are loose, then you will need to take a pair of pliers and sort of crimp this together just slightly. Not too much, or this won't fit in, but just enough to cause some friction when you do that. I'm going to do the same for my left motor wires. My left motor wires coming from the motor. My left motor wires coming from my front panel. And I will connect them. The big one goes to the big one. The small one to the small one. Now my left and right motors are connected. As you can see there, that came off a little. So what should I do? I probably should crimp that a little to hold it in place. With your power switch in the off position, connect the power wires. My power switch is in the off position. I'm now going to connect my power wires. Those are the only ones left. From my front panel, here are my power wires. From my
cluster. Here are my power wires. Here I go connecting the big one to the big one. The small one to the small one. Everything is connected now. I need to stretch my legs. I'll be back in a moment. Go. I did want to show you this crimping process in case you need to do it. On our left motor wires here, we had this one falling out fairly easily. So I take this end here, which we call the female end, and I'm going to take a pair of needle nose pliers, and I'm going to put them in such a way that I can crimp this together slightly, but not too much. And then I'll place this back in. And now there's a nice tight connection between them. If you should get them squeezed too much together, you probably need a very fine screwdriver to get in between there and pry them apart slightly. I think you can do this though. Something else that I want to show you is on some of our cars, both the female ends and the male ends are completely encased in plastic. This one is the female, this one is the male. When putting these together, there's a flat side and a rounded side. A flat side and a rounded side. Put the flat side with the flat side. Gently rock it together and they should line up perfectly like that. Okay, let's finish up. We've completed all the way up to step 10 now. We're on step 11, and it tells me to stuff all my wires into the joystick compartment, trying to leave the battery wires most accessible, as you will need access to these to recharge the batteries. So I'll hold these out here, I'll take all my other wires, and I'll just stuff them in. If they're all good connections, I shouldn't have to worry about them at all. I take my battery wires and I stuff them in last, because I'll need access to them to change my batteries. Now, I use one of my yellow wheel covers to cover the joystick compartment. Use Velcro to keep it in place. Here's one of my wheel covers. I have some Velcro-like material there. And I have mating Velcro here. And I cover the compartment like so. So to get to my batteries, all I need to do is pull that off, and my batteries are quite accessible in here. My last step now, with the two sharp enclosed screws, so somewhere in here should be two sharp screws. Sure enough, here they are. Screw the front panel in place. If you've already attached the magnetic strips in the panel opening, remove them. Now you probably have already. Down here where I have this Velcro, you just grab your strips and pull them off, toss them away. You won't need them. And you don't even need pilot holes to get these screws started, because I've chosen very sharp screws, so be careful with them. My front panel's in place. I take my Phillips head screwdriver, I put it in my screw, and I push down fairly hard. It will start very easily because they're very sharp. I screw it all the way down, I take my other screw, put it in the Phillips head, push down hard to get it started, and screw it in place. The screws are sharp, so you don't need to drill pilot holes. Don't over-tighten the screw. This is only plastic. Just screw it down till it's firmly in place. You've done it. You have completely assembled a CooperCar kit. Reread any of the instructions, verify that you understand everything that you've done. If you have any questions, you should call us immediately. This is a toy, but you must be careful with this toy. It moves by itself. It moves under the power of your handicapped significant person, so be very careful. Please remember that we assume no liability for this product. As you are putting it together yourself, we cannot be responsible for it. We don't know what you're doing out there. As with any kit, you are responsible for its operation and for its maintenance. Now, you can call us with any problems, and if you know about our software at all, you know that we do this because we care and will help you in any way possible. So please be careful, have a great time, and the next part of the tape, after this, will be the actual operation of the car. Right now, installation is complete, and we'll come back to you at some time here and do some operational things. See you soon. Hi, we're back. You should have checked all your connections on your car to verify that you've done everything correctly, but I'm assuming you have. So I'm going to show you just some simple operations of the car as per the instructions that are provided. So here we go. We'll start with switch control. Notice I don't have my adaptive seat in here yet. You should review completely the operation of the car before you put your child in. Do not experiment with the car's controls with a child in the car. Experiment as is. Are you ready to experiment with me? Good. Switch control. Plug the child switch into the appropriate direction. Well, I'm going to use this external switch right here that we provide you. But you can use any switch that you'd like, as long as it ends in one of these miniature jacks. Actually, this is a plug. And this is a 1/8 inch plug. I'm going to undo the twisty. I'm going to take this plug, and just so I'll stay in one place, I'm going to plug this into my left direction. I have my switch plugged into left. Plug either the go plug, and we have something on here called a go plug. Plug either the go plug or an external switch. So you'd have another switch, any switch. We plug that into the go switches jack. And I'll use the go plug here. With the go plug inserted, the child switches always work. With the go plug inserted, the child switches always work. If you want control over the child switches, then you would plug an external switch into the go switches so that you can control when the child switches work. But I'll use the go plug for now. And this will allow the child switches to always work. With an external switch in the go switches jack, once again, the external switch must be activated in order for the child switches to function. Use the external switch when you want supervisory control. But I don't need supervisory control now, just to experiment, so I have my go plug into my go switches jack. Turn on the CooperCar. On. Set the speed to slow start, about medium speed. We have two sides of our speed control, a fast start side and a slow start side. I'm going to set my dial to a medium speed, slow start.
I'd like to show you that just a little more closely. So we have a fast start side and a slow start side, and we have a little line that indicates where we are. This is our speed dial. I have it on the slow start side, about medium. Straight up is off. Straight down is off. This is our slowest slow start speed. This is our fastest slow start speed. Slow start is the acceleration, how fast it will start. And then we have all 7 speeds available for fast start, a very quick acceleration. This is our fastest fast start and our slowest fast start. And I'll put it on slow start, medium speed. Next, make sure the time is off. Here's our time dial, and I have it pointing straight towards off. And actually, anything on this side is off. But I'll make sure by pointing it straight to off. Well, we should be ready to go now. We have our go switches plugged in with our go plug, so the child switches always function. We have one of our child switches here, which we're going to pretend is a child switch. I have that plugged into my left turn. I have it on slow start, medium speed, and my time is off. Here I go. Let's look at that again a little farther away. So we'll look at that again. Our left. So it turns pretty much like a tank. To turn left, the left set of wheels go backwards, the right set go forwards. If I take my switch and plug it into right, it should turn right. And in fact it does. If we did it forward or backward, we would go those directions, but obviously we'd also go out of camera range right now. So you get the general idea here. That's how we do switch control. Okay, let's talk about the time for a moment. Notice, the time control controls how long the CooperCar will travel in a certain direction with only a momentary activation. Use this feature with caution. We strongly suggest you never use the go plug in time mode. Always keep supervisory control with an external switch or the joystick. So I will demonstrate that for you now with the go plug in, but remember, don't use time and the go plug because you don't have good control. Here I go. I'm going to put it on a short time, and let's see what happens when I hit my right turn now, and I'm going to hit and release my switch. And you notice that the car moves longer than I held my hand on the switch. Watch again. Get the idea? If we wanted a long time, we just move the dial to a long time. And now watch how long it goes after I release my switch. Quite a long time. And the same thing holds true in the forward and backwards directions. Now the time means that it will go in that direction for that amount of time. That's why you need external control. You need to make sure that you can stop it if they look like they're going to get into trouble. So be careful using the time mode. You can always come to a stop in the time mode by hitting another switch. You want to make sure to keep an external switch in so you can keep control over the time mode. We had a truck just go past and we decided to cue back up this tape a little, so I hope that discontinuity won't bother you too much. But should you be in the timed mode and you want to come to an emergency stop, you need only to hit one of your other switches
to stop. That's if you don't have supervisory control. So in the time mode, if you're moving forward, for example, and you have a left switch plugged in, you can just hit your left switch and that will bring the car to a halt. The bottom line on two switches at the same time is, anytime you hit two switches at the same time, the car will halt. It will never accept input from either switch if two switches are hit at once. And that means timed mode also. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. We'll talk a few minutes about positioning, but bear in mind while I'm talking about positioning here that we do not assume responsibility for your positioning. We don't know your child, we don't know how they will work in the car. You need to be concerned with the best positioning, the best for them, and the safest. So be careful. Reread instructions over and over so you understand everything perfectly. Okay, this is a carry seat by Tumble Forms. They cost around $200. I particularly like these because they're steel reinforced through the whole body. And I'm going to set this in the car. It's in. We would like to affix the chair a little more firmly to the car. That's why we have provided these bungees for you. We assume no liability for the construction of bungees. How could we ever? Please don't sue us for any inane reason. Be careful. Make sure the bungees are on tight and logically. How would I put the bungee on? This is the way that I do it. I feed it through like so. I take the front end of the bungee, I come down underneath this part, I come around. That way I'm being held both this way and down the seat. And then back behind the car, I attach the bungees, like so. Now you see that it's quite loose. Don't be satisfied with loose bungees or loose material holding it in. The way that I get around that is by going around once. And I'll repeat the same for the other side. Push one end through from the front. Take the front end, under, around once, connecting back. Now it's in. Very nicely. That's one way of attaching a car seat or a tumble form or a snug seat or a courier seat to this vehicle. Be careful though, we assume no responsibility for you attaching the seat to the vehicle. And that's it right there. Now, let's talk about positioning. You should be familiar with how switches are attached to different parts of your child. We can't be involved in that because we don't know your child. We don't know your budgets either. But you might have a switch placed behind their head. You might have it somehow out here. And you might ask, how out there? We use a unit called a Magic Arm. It's available from Toys for Special Children, and I'll show you why it's called a Magic Arm. First of all, it attaches to any part of the roll bar, even though it wasn't made for it at all. But coincidentally, it attaches beautifully. And then with this one lever, it can be positioned in any way that you want. So if I want my switch right out here, like so, I would be able to Velcro my switch right like there. Magic Arms run about $140. They're available from Toys for Special Children in New York, and that reference is on the flyer that comes with the car. and they are infinitely positionable. I can position it up here with a different type of switch, and I could have cheek control. By the child pushing against that with his cheek, he will be able to control any direction of the car. So we've talked about the seat, we've talked about the magic arm. I'm here to explain our wireless remote control operation. Now it's not full remote control. Oh, I should introduce you to Brent, I'm sorry. This is Brent Weir. He was the very first person that we ever had in the CooperCar, and he still is one of our tried and true users. He's in most of our brochures. His face is seen around the country, if not the world. And he's going to be our demonstrator for the wireless remote today. But these are the wireless remote control options. This right here is the transmitter. This right here is the receiver. The operation is so simple that even a child can do it. The way it works is we take the receiver, and I include with it some dual lock, which is some fastening material. And this will be fastened to the car, which I'll show you in just a moment. We have here an off-on switch. When I press the on switch, our little light comes on. And that tells us that the unit is on, and it is taking battery power right now. So when we're not using it, remember to turn it off. And then we have one wire that comes out, and that is actually what the wireless remote control controls. So let's look at me install it down here. It's going to be hard to see because Brent, as you can see, we need to have the stirrups on to keep his knees at a 90-degree bend so that we can keep his hips at a 90-degree bend so he can control his head to control these two buttons that we have for him. When we did not have the stirrups on, then his legs would fly into extension and would pull his torso down until his butt was riding right on top of the pommel here. And then he had no control of his upper body. So for those people that have extenders like Brent, get yourself some stirrups. Let me show you what I did with these stirrups. Somewhere in here is this. What I've done to give me a little extra time to get this 90-degree bend at the knees is I have hot glued Velcro to the bottom of Brent's sneakers, and to the stirrups I have hot glued the mating type of Velcro, so that when Brent is in an extension type of day, I take his foot, the Velcro holds for just enough time for me to get these straps around his feet like so. And now he's in. And that keeps his legs nice. I'm going to take my receiver, and using my dual lock, I'll attach it to the mating dual lock that we've supplied that you'll place right around there. So here I go. And it makes sort of a locking sound. And it's nice and in place now. Now you're free to put that where you want because sometimes your child's legs and knees and feet will go right here. So there should be enough wire here for this to reach where it needs to reach next, which is the Go Switches plug. There it is. Actually, it's a jack. The Go Switches jack. I plug it right into the Go Switches jack. So this remote control combination now of the transmitter and the receiver wire will enable and disable the switches. So that means for as long as I hold this little tiny button down on the transmitter, Brent's switches will work. But when I release that little button on the transmitter, then Brent's switches will stop working. So this is sort of an override for the switches. Now, if I should take this same cable right here and plug it into the joystick Go jack, well, what do you think my remote control would then control? Well, then my little button here would have override control over the joystick if that's what Brent was using. Okay? So that's important to know. The receiver, if it's plugged into Go Switches, turns on and off the switches. If it's plugged into joystick go, then it will turn on and off the joystick. This does not make the car go. This allows your child to make the car go. Okay, well, let's see how it works. I'm going to plug it back into the go switches, the one all the way over here. I'm going to turn the power on. There I go. I press this button. The little light came on. So my receiver is active. My transmitter is always active, and it doesn't actually take battery power until you press on the little button. Now right now, for as long as I'm holding the button, Brent's switches will work. So here we go. I'm going to turn Brent's power on. Brent's power is on now with the power switch. We know where that is. I'm going to put him into a slow, fast start, but slow speed. I'm going to put him into a short time duration because Brent has a problem maintaining contact with his switches. And now this switch will go forward and this switch will turn. But they'll only work when I'm pressing my transmitter. So a little demonstration now. Okay, here we go. Brent is pressing his switches, but I do not have my button depressed. So I'm going to press my button. Here I go. And there goes Brent. So now his switches will work. So you can move forward or turn. Which way should we go? Forward? That was Brent stopping. But now I've stopped him by taking my finger off of the little button right there. Now Brent's switches don't work. But when I enable Brent's switches again, the switches work. So Brent, let's see if we can get a turn now. Good. Keep turning. More turn. Good. Now you'll notice that on carpet it turns very slowly. I suggest if you're on carpet, you need to pump up the speed because of the way it turns. Here we go. Let's have another turn there, kiddo. Turn all the way around. Now, I'll teach you a very useful trick here. When he's turning, sometimes they will not have good control over the turn, and then they'll never get anywhere. So what I do is, when he's facing the direction that I want with his turn, I just release the button. So I'm going to let him turn. You turn, Brent. Turn towards me. Keep turning. A little more. Well, he did it by himself there. But if he did not do it by himself, he went past me, and the next time that he came around, I would have controlled his turn with my little button here. So that's a way that you can get them doing exactly what you want, and they feel like they're doing it themselves because you're not connected to them, and you're letting go of the button when they're facing the right direction. Now, the real reason for the remote control is this. Brent, are you ready? Go forward. Can you go forward? That's turning. Can you go forward with your other button? I'll get on this side of you. There you go. Forward. Now, the real reason for the remote control is in case they're going to hit something. So this time, Brent's going to crash into the green wall, and then I'm going to let go. Now, I stopped him, and we had a little bit of a coast, but nothing detrimental to his body. But I stopped him with my button. That's the real #1 reason for the override. Okay? Understood? Now you'll find that the car, when it does turn nicely, it has such turning torque that it will turn even when there are obstacles. If you look down here, you'll see that Brent has made contact with this soft green cushion. Now you would think he'd need to back up first before turning, but such is not the case. Brent, can you turn? Can you turn? Can you use your other button to turn? There you go. And keep turning. Keep turning. That's good. Now, give us a call if you need us. Otherwise, we'll be talking to you at some time in the future. Hope you enjoy it. Have fun. Bye now.